about Mother Mary Ignatius Carroll, the builder of 5 buildings and the dreamer of this chapel.
Thank you, Sister. Welcome. I am Dr. Michelle Morbeck, Professor of History and Director of the Honors Program, and it is my pleasure to talk to you today about Mother Mary Ignatius and the Sanctity of Learning. I hope you will come up after the program if you've never been to see the beautiful windows that, as the Sister said, only the priest could see. Maybe you could keep them as you were kneeling at the altar. There were more rows of pews that they took out when the church was modified after Vatican II. I always wonder, what could you see? What could you not see? So it was a sunny afternoon, March 19, 1940, when Rosemont students dressed in their black academic gowns stood on the porch of Maine to witness the fulfillment of a dream. A photograph taken that day shows President Mother Mary Cleophas, shovel in her hand, a small smile playing across her face. I like to think she was imagining how pleased Mother Mary Ignatius, the moving force and guiding spirit of Rosemont College for 15 years, would have been at the groundbreaking of the chapel. Mother Mary Ignatius assumed the presidency of Rosemont College in 1924. Through sheer dint of will and much determined prayer, she ensured its success. Rosemont College consisted of 2 buildings, 8 teaching sisters, and 40 students at the time she assumed the helm. If Cardinal Doherty, his stalwart friend and supporter, was known as God's bricklayer for his expansion of the Philadelphia Archdiocese, then Mother Mary Ignatius was equally deserving of her sobriquet, the builder, as she oversaw the growth of Rosemont College to 200+ students who lived on a campus that included Connolly Hall, Gertrude Kissel Memorial Library, Good Council Hall, Newfield Hall, and Graceland. Sadly, Mother Mary Ignatius did not live to see the fulfillment of her most cherished dreams, a chapel. After accompanying the head of the Society to Rome to attend meetings of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus in the summer of 1939, she returned to her home in Ireland for the first time since leaving in 1907. On the voyage back to the States, one filled with much flaming for the chapel, Mother Mary Ignatius died just hours before the boat docked in New York. So who was the woman behind this legacy in stone that surrounds us? She was born in a small rural village in the county of Limerick in 1882. Annie Carroll was the middle child with 2 older sisters and a younger sister and a brother. By all accounts, she enjoyed a very happy childhood, educated by a governess at home with her siblings. But this idyll came to a crashing halt at the death of her mother on the feast day of the Immaculate Conception, when she was just 5. Thus, that day came to hold a special significance, personal as well as religious, for all the Carroll family. The children all made their first communions on that date, a fact Annie faithfully recorded in the back of the small black book of devotions she kept her entire life. Annie was just 9 when her 2 older sisters left for boarding school, and she assumed her place as the head of her father's household. By all accounts, she rose admirably to the task and found it quite difficult to that he planned to remarry. But in 1897, it was Annie's turn to go off to school. She and her younger sister Fanny were sent to the Mark Cross Holy Child School in Sussex, England. The Carroll sisters adjusted quickly to the rigors of boarding school. Annie excelled in both her studies and emerged as a leader among her peers. More significant dates were added to her little black book. In 1898, on the Immaculate Conception, she joined the Children of Mary. 2 years later, her sister Fanny did the same. And at some point, the young girl who used to pray, "If you do not mind, I do not want to be a sister," found her calling. In 1902, upon graduation, she entered the novitiate at Mayfield, which you can see in the window under Gertrude next to Cornelia. Yet another date was entered in the Black Book when Annie received both her habit and the Immaculate Conception that day. The determination and initiative that had served Annie in good stead throughout her childhood and as a student became Sister Mary Ignatius's cross to bear. Even as her novice mistress described her in a letter to a former teacher as made for the religious life and a true child of Aaron, she was also marked as impatient. Annie knew what she wanted, and she wanted it now, which led to Sister Mary Ignatius being seen as arrogant at times. She does not know her place, sniffed some of the older novices. However, Sister Mary Ignatius persevered in bending her will to the role of the order, and in 1904, on the Immaculate Conception, she made her first vows. In 1907, Sister Mary Ignatius received word that she would be sent to America to teach in Philadelphia, which she did for 2 years. In 1909, illness in the city finally broke the path of conception, but on New Year's Day. Nonetheless, she became Mother Mary Ignatius. For the next decade, she went wherever the society needed her. Chicago, then Cheyenne, where she was lauded for her teaching, but again, studies and returned to Philadelphia, where she taught at Callahan and St. Leonard's. She also began studying for a master's in church history under an Augustinian. She reveled in the history of the Irish saints. She loved the women religious associated with St. Boniface. She referred to the convent at St. Jerome's School in Bethlehem, headed by St. Paula, as the first Catholic women's college. All these strands of her history and experience drew together when in 1924 she was appointed the third president of Rosemont College. She never forgot the lessons of church history. She envisioned Rosemont College as a worthy successor to St. Paula's School in Bethlehem, and that meant a chapel, a standalone chapel. The first chapel at Rosemont College was in the dining room of the main building. There was then a chapel in the basement of Kistler for the students and a domestic chapel in Maine. But Mother Mary Ignatius wanted a standalone chapel more than anything. In 1929, she earmarked the monetary gifts she received in honor of her Silver Jubilee for the chapel fund. But as Sister Peg pointed out, the Great Depression made it impossible for anything to proceed. Students and alumni fundraised endlessly, and by 1937, Mother Mary Ignatius petitioned the Mother House in Rome for permission to build, and even commissioned the first drawings for a chapel. Sadly, that request was denied. Mother Mary Ignatius, who literally never heard the word no, even when it was said quite loudly, persevered. And on March 18, 1939, a telegram arrived from the Mother House in Rome granting permission for a crypt only to be used as a chapel until the college could fully fund the structure. Mother Mary Ignatius lost no time requesting plans from 4 different architectural firms. She envisioned an early English or Gothic building without pillars, if you please, to see 400 constructed of local Foxcroft stone with Indiana limestone or local trim, or less than $120,000. Although she did warn the architects, at the present time, funding only would exist for a glorified basement. After visiting the chapel at Ravenhill, then a school run by the Sisters of the Assumption, its architect Henry Daggett was selected, Mother Mary Ignatius requested a chapel as nice as Ravenhill, for the least amount of money possible. With that hope in her heart, she set off for Europe in May of 1939, never knowing that she would not return. In the account of the chapel dedication, which took place on January 9, 1941, the Rosemont sisters swore that the presence of dear Mother Mary Ignatius was felt almost palpably by all concerned. As you will have surmised by now, Mother Mary Ignatius herself selected the name of this chapel. The sisters honored the one under whose inspiration this work had begun by commemorating the event very dear and intimately connected with the great events in her life. Mother Mary Ignatius firmly believed that the chapel would be constructed and had gone so far as to ask Monsignor Fulton Sheen to preach the inaugural sermon. It has always been the profound conviction of my soul that she offered her life for a chapel. She said to our Lord, I will give my life if you will give the chapel. Paraphrasing the scriptures, he claimed, greater love than this no woman hath than to give her life for a chapel. But Mother Mary Ignatius, inasmuch as she longed for this chapel, understood that Rosemont was more than a monument in stone. In 1940, the students dedicated the Cornelian to her. They harkened back to their freshman convocation, remembering that first Mother Mary Ignatius taught them. She herself will tell you that the true spirit of Rosemont is our students, the living stones in whom the Holy Child lies.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I ask that we all stand and slowly process over to Main Building and across the street. And we'll continue with food and a viewing of art, works by a number of Rosemont students, faculty, and staff. And then we will begin with a presentation on St. Bridget. The students who are studying abroad in Ireland for the Medievalism and Popular Culture course this semester, this spring. Thank you.